Well, thanks for joining. Today, we're excited to welcome our speaker, Mark Little, who's going to talk about uh, the strategic value of the PSM degree from his perspective as an employer of students from PSM programs. We're really excited about that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we introduce him in a few minutes. But just again, to continue I guess, tradition that we've had to give everyone a brief orientation about who we are and what we're doing here. Actually, first, I wanted to acknowledge Marcel Blaise, who was for a long time the organizer of these Ask NPSMA webinars. He's rotated off of his position. So I'm Victor Ugaz. I'm the director of the biotech PSM at Texas A&M University. And so I'll be your host today and for the upcoming webinars. I apologize for my voice. I came down with something last week that I'm still trying to shake. Um, but again, the PSM, NPSMA is the organization, the national organization that supports and promotes professional science master's programs. And that occurs by providing resources, connections, and opportunities. So resources like the webinar that you're attending currently to help get some perspectives about in this case, employer perspectives that we can take back to our programs to help prepare our students to be more competitive. And the PSM initiative emerged from actually a need from industry looking for individuals who were not just trained in science, but also have skills that prepare them to work in teams, manage projects, and cross-communicate across science and business domains. So the NPSMA organization oversees the PSM curriculum, which involves both STEM coursework and business coursework and an experiential component. Uh, in addition to those elements, there's also, programs have an active advisory board. I think Mark was actively involved with the advisory board at Temple University, I believe, for a number of years, for example. And this really closes the loop to help develop transferable workplace skills for our graduates. I believe there's something on the order of 300 affiliated PSM programs throughout the U.S. And we're hoping to grow that because our students are well positioned to be competitive for current and future job opportunities. Uh, NPSMA provides a number of benefits that are aimed at helping your programs level up. And that includes things like sharing best practices, giving tools that you can use to help prepare your students. So, for example, we have a Canvas platform that members can access to get information that can help you with your program and maybe provide some resources and advice if you are managing a program where there may not be other ones like it on your campus. As A&M, I think we're the only PSM program currently here. I also wanted to give a quick save the date for the 2026 conference. This is going to be a virtual conference, so this is in recognition of in current times. Sometimes it's becoming more challenging to travel to the conference and really benefit from the ideas, networking, and collaboration that are available there. So we are excited to introduce a virtual conference this year with the goal of engaging more attendees in these opportunities. That will be taking place from November 4th to November 6th, and efforts to organize that are currently underway. I don't know, Megan, if you wanted to say anything about that at this time.
I think stay tuned. We will be sending out some official save the dates to our community, and we ask that you share very broadly as we are hoping to encourage a more breadth and broader reach. It will be much more accessible financially for our members, and that is one of the plays too. Um, and we are still taking ideas. So if anyone here is excited about what that might look like and wants to participate, please reach out to me directly or to Derek at manager@npsma.org, and he will put you in contact with me as well. So save the date. There will be half days, number November 4th, 5th, and 6th. All right, thanks.
Sounds great. Thanks, Megan. Yeah, we're really excited about the opportunity to get more involvement in the conference through this virtual format. And as Megan said, there's plenty of opportunities to become engaged. Any member can become engaged and join us to help promote these initiatives. So please feel free to reach out to if you're interested and connect with us. These webinars are archived in the on our YouTube channel. But also, I want to encourage all of you, if you're not already connected through our LinkedIn site, to please do so. That's where you will be getting the latest information about upcoming events like webinars, our upcoming conference. All those things are being actively promoted and mentioned on our LinkedIn site. So please connect with us if you haven't already done so. Okay, that brings us to today's presentation. One of the initiatives that we've been looking at in terms of the leadership has been how do we deepen partnerships between our programs and employers. And so that's kind of the theme of our presentation today, getting an employer's perspective about the value of the PSM degree, what that offers, not just to our students, but also to employers. And to do that, we're excited to welcome Mark Little. So Mark is a former president, but also currently a senior VP of a Prescient Healthcare Group. He's in the Princeton, New Jersey area. Among I'll let him talk about his career path and his journey when he gets into his presentation. But what I highlighted here at the bottom was something that was interesting to me when I spoke with Mark planning this webinar was this competitive intelligence area. So this is kind of a career path that maybe there's not a lot of awareness about, but it strikes me as one of those things that our students are kind of uniquely prepared to become involved with. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and let him begin his presentation.
Mark, you're on mute.
Thank you, Victor. I'm trying to share my screen, and we did this successfully. Nobody got hurt earlier, so it looks like we're good, right?
Looks great.
Okay, good, good. And believe it or not, I mean, I'm sitting here in Princeton, New Jersey with a blizzard out here. We got about 18 inches of snow, and it seems to have brought in a bat. I'm in a sort of an office barn, and there's a bat flying around. You might have seen me get up, but Princeton, New Jersey sounds like a very civilized place, but I seem to find a rustic spot for bats to live. But anyway, hopefully they don't attack, at least during this presentation. So anyway, let me start by saying this is a perspective, and I'm here just about equally to learn a little bit more about where PSM is, some of the challenges you face. But I'll give you a perspective from an employer's point of view. Also, a little asterisk there saying that I gave this a similar presentation again at Temple. I think Victor referred to my association with SEMA Freer at Temple. And that started, about 10 years ago. So it's been a while since I've been involved with this. So I'll introduce myself. I'll introduce why I'm interested in this thing. I'll talk a little about competitive intelligence, which Victor nicely teed up for me. Then we'll go through a SWOT analysis of what I see as the science of education and what, if you layer over the professional science master's degree on top of that, what it does from a perspective of employability and just the experience that one would have taking a job for the first time. I mean, everybody got to, and then this fourth bullet, everybody's got to say something about AI. I don't have much to say, but every conference I go to, there's always 70% of it is about artificial intelligence. And then advice more about maybe hearing from you what the challenges are and then thinking of the things we can do. But it sounds like you're already reaching out to the business community. That would, I think that sort of is one of the points I was going to make. And then Q&A. Hopefully we'll have plenty of time. I only have like 300 slides, so it's not, no, I've got a dozen, so we should get through this pretty quickly. About wrong direction. So here I am. Yeah, I'm going to go down the left side for education, and I'll start from the top and go down. So I was a Hickory High graduate in North Carolina, so that's where the accent's coming from. First 18 years there, then the UNC in Chapel Hill for 4 years. I got a PhD in biochemistry at Ohio State. And then I went through a couple of postdocs, one at the UNC School of Medicine and one that was at the place called Sermov, which was in Grenoble, France. And that's probably, that 1 year was enough to sort of mess me up for the rest of my life, always looking for the wine menu at, all the restaurants. Anyway, so I always recommend a good year in France is a good experience. So here, on the right-hand side is my business experience. I'll go from the bottom up here. I joined Glaxo right after I got back from France, and I had spent 15 years there. And I just want to highlight the fact that what you didn't see on the left was any kind of MBA school, which some people might opt to go there. So I really didn't have much business, but I got a lot of the business experience as in business analysis there in London. I spent 3 years in London, and I was in the business analysis team. And that was a good experience. And again, probably the last 30 years of my life, I spent more time with MBAs than PhDs. Then I joined Covance sort of in the C-suite as a vice president of business intelligence, so helping them make decisions about their strategy, really pulling together a lot of external information, internal information to kind of look for trends in the environment and then build on that, build on our own businesses and grow. And we did a very good job of growing those 10 years I was with them. And then lastly, I joined this smaller, kept getting smaller. So Glaxo is a pretty big company. Covance is about a tenth of that, and then Precedent's about a tenth of that. So I kept getting smaller. This was a small boutique consultancy when I joined in 2013, and I spent 10 years there, or 11, I guess. I actually am no longer there, so I'm both a former president and a former senior vice president. But what we did there is consult to the pharmaceutical industry. So that was sort of a big leap for me. If you go up this ladder, it's increasingly more pressure on me as an individual to generate revenue. So that's sort of a quick summary of that. If there are no questions, I'll move right along. So why was I interested in this professional science master's program? Well, in 2009, I used to get Science Magazine and read the easy sections, the summaries that were interesting, and occasionally the hard sections where they went into the articles. But in the easy section, there was this article about the professional science master's program, and what the intent was. And I don't know if that's when it started. I mean, you could tell me that, but it was being funded. I think there was, as I recall, about $15 million was coming from the National Science Foundation at the time. And I just thought it was a brilliant, it's almost like I wish I'd have learned that when I was coming out of school. I had to learn it on the job. But when you ask, what do you wish you had learned earlier? Well, I think a lot of these things I was reading into this master's program was the things that I wanted to learn earlier. So if you go down, there's a quote there that talks about why we need this wider support, and these jobs that we're going to be available for the PSM graduates would lead to leadership. And really, I think the other thing was making the nation more competitive. I think there's always been a challenge, even in the last 20, 30 years, of bridging the gap between novel science and technology and innovation and product innovation. And I felt like that is going to address this degree was going to address that. So anyway, I was working in competitive intelligence at the time, and I have been for most of my career, and it's just a great fit for that. It's mixing the science with the business acumen, and it's just a nice way of adding that before you actually go into the work environment. So at the time too, I was the chairman of something. I think it was Skip, or there was a society, and I was a chairman of something. And there was a competitive technical intelligence group. And I said, guys, this is what you should. This degree is wonderful. So I think we published in this newsletter, the NPSMA, back in the spring of 12, and we just said this is a great potential job opportunity for graduates with this degree. Just thought I'd throw that in for historical perspective. So what is competitive intelligence? It's not that difficult. It's some people, I mean, if you get 7 professionals in the room, you'll get 10 definitions of what it is. But it's really, to me, a process and a product. The process is how you go about it. It's also is pictured in this circle here. How you go about collecting information, processing it, analyzing it, and then presenting it to a decision-making team to help them and support them in making the best possible decision. And also that product itself is the competitive intelligence. You hear probably mostly people think of it that way, as a product. Here's some intelligence on blah, 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 blah. And you think of it as some information that's enlightening the organization in some way. And as you can see, and the last point here on the slide, as you can see, it has a kinship to the way science is published. Really, when you look at a publication, you have an abstract. Usually that's the executive summary. Then you have an intro, what is the problem you're facing. Then you talk about the experiments you run, the results, and then you discuss it afterwards, and where you can then create more hypotheses and test them later down the road. So you can see the fit, and you can see the excitement I have when I read that article back in 2009 in the Science magazine of, this is just exactly what we need. This is the type of degree that we need to support this discipline. Okay, now one of the tools we use is in the CI world is a SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And back in when I gave this presentation at Temple back in 2015, I sort of walked them through in a workshop fashion what I thought the difference was between just having a BS degree in one of the sciences and coming out with a PSM. So we did the SWOT on first, what it was like just to have that basic science. And I thought the strengths, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone. I think the strengths were, the logical, the critical, and the creative thinking that you get from science, the hypothesis testing, the analysis. And another thing that a lot of people talk about is the tenacity, just the doggedness of taking on a problem, trying to figure it out. That is, that's a quality that a lot of employers love. And the curiosity it takes to have that tenacity, to stick with it. And then on average, I think we have a pretty good understanding. The science base is a good understanding for life in general. You understand nature, you understand sort of what makes us all tick. So weaknesses from an employer standpoint, is that we sometimes come across as too single dimensional. I was told, when I joined that London, the woman who ran that, she said, I don't want any, scientific eggheads. So that's something that, and I've heard that one or two times, but somehow I dodged that over the years. But that is something that, can come up. And it's also, I think it's not as bad as NASA, but we can self marginalize with our language. We'll use acronyms. We'll use even DNA, RNA, whatever. We use acronyms that represent a whole concept, and if you don't understand that concept, it's very marginalizing. It excludes others, and then we lack real world experiences. And what I always harp on is back in my Glaxo days, if you were getting ready to make a decision, if you ask someone from the R&D organization, what do you want to do, and you ask somebody from the business organization, what do you want to do? What you'll hear is an R&D said, well, we need to do another study, and in the business they want to. They say, well, we've got enough information. Let's go with this. We're going to take a little risk. It's not a perfect world, but we're going to go with this. So let's decide with our gut right now. So therein lies sort of the stress between the two organizations, and it's always been there. But it's really embedded in the way either we're born or educated. But it comes out, in the real world like that. You have people who want to do another study and people who are ready, to take a leap in faith and make a decision. So again, risk taking, we're not inclined, the scientists not inclined to risk take, they're more likely to do the next study. So, and as far as opportunities and threats, it's all about jobs. I mean, and I'll get to that in a second as to what the employer sees as the benefits of the degree. But here's from the strength point of view, what does the PSM add to it? Well, I don't know if there's anything to add to it, but it certainly retains everything. And I think it gives you a certain confidence that, hey, this stuff that I learned and these qualities that represented here in the strengths, this is good. This is a good foundation for going out into the world. So it gives you some confidence. And then as far as addressing and mitigating the weaknesses, I think you do, and this degree does give you that business acumen and exposes you to the business culture that you need to get to do well in the work environment, as well as breaking down a little bit, making you communicate across functions and being able to then contribute to cross-functional teams. So moving on to jobs, what do employers value? I think it's the greater understanding, particularly of competing interests and the trade-offs. When I went to, and I don't know if this is routine, but Temple had capstone research projects, and they would, at the end of their work, they would present this to the advisory committee and anybody else that wanted to come. And they were that was very impressive. There was later I'll highlight one student. His name is Max, and he got up there and he presented a diagnostic for human papillovirus. And if you're sitting there in the pharmaceutical industry, Gardasil's coming out of the vaccine. Well, there was a guy from Merck on the advisory board, and he actually asked him, where do you see this going, given, we're going to wipe it out. There won't be a need to be, and he was able to address that, talking about the window of opportunity that the business foresaw. And he was able to make those trade-offs, talk about the trade-offs, talk about how long what the return was going to be on this investment, the launch of the diagnostic, et cetera, et cetera. And I immediately hired him right after his presentation. So he's a 10-year. He was with us for 10 years and just went on to BMS late last year in December. But anyway, just a bit of an example of what it means to have that greater understanding and understand it's not always strictly about the science, but it's about trade-offs in decision making. And again, the ability to communicate across the business disciplines, i.e., you're not an egghead, and you can translate the things that and make them almost educate others about the foundations of the science as they make business decisions. And then this last one, again, I don't know if it's something across the board, a capstone study, the capstone research and the program, but I think at the end of the day, what I just described about Max is that he owns something and he was able to defend it as you would defend a PhD dissertation. So that was really good, and I think that is an aspect that I saw in Max that I see in this program that separates them well from just the BS degree. So let's see if I can move on. Yes, I can. There are the stars. I mentioned SEMA at Temple. We hit it off very early. It must have been 2014, something like that. And we started working together and found different ways. And she would just say, "I think I got another great student. You might want to hire, Max. You might want to hire Sibia." And she was my farm team, so it worked out really well between SEMA and I. And what they were coming into was an environment of consulting, which is not for the weak at heart. And sometimes when I was not that good at it, but I survived it. But I always wondered what sort of person they were looking for, and there was a lot of experience around in the company. And one of the things that we were looking for that didn't work out so much with PhDs is they were too committed, a little bit, and we need more of a generalist that still had the ability to be open-minded and to take on problems and could work well with others. And we thought this was a nice masters in general did better than PhDs was the rule of thumb. But the PSMs seem to do really well among the masters. So that's the message here. Um, and again, Max worked hard for 10 years, and now he's off on client side, as they say, with Bristol Myers Squibb. And okay, this is where I had a little trouble. I don't know if I should even think about giving advice, but I'm sure they always think of advice as either stop something or start or continue something. But I would definitely, whatever, it sounds like what you're doing is already happening. Yeah, you want to start and continue the business disciplines, the financial analysis, even looking at, IPOs and I don't know, case studies and analyzing quarterly reports, earnings, and stuff like that was something I wish I'd learned earlier. Strategic planning processes, marketing, business cases, and then again AI. So I think you're doing this already, but reach across, and build those bridges as well as reach across to employers who might say, these people are hireable, but I wish they had this or that. And that gives you a lead as to what they may be looking for. I think that also, I think a problem, and I did find this out from the AI analysis of the SWOT, of looking at this degree and doing a SWOT, was there are not many people that know about it. What is it? And I think as you reach out to local employers or regional employers, you'll be educating them as to what this is. Then marketing, employability probably is the three things. It's all about employability, but also that entry level salary. I know there's a big difference in looking at Max as he was coming in with the PSM versus if just the BS. I also think that that this ownership, they can handle something themselves, all by themselves. The independence of that research, and I think the contacts, the networking, being able to, as I said earlier, there was someone from Merck on the science advisory board. SEMA built a pretty good team there. I think she still has people from Merck. She's moved on, but I think she's ensured that there's a strong scientific advisory board that still supports the programs. So then just recently I was at what's an ILF, was Intelligence Leadership Forum, and there's this brilliant guy, Dave Snowden. He was talking, every sentence was brilliant, and I couldn't process the previous sentence, and he was off on something else that was brilliant. So anyway, but he did say something I remember. He said the world needs more generalists, and I think he may be right. And I think this represents that, and it's the whole education, the whole premise behind this degree, it seems to me, is to create some sort of more of a generalist. You got a good foundation in the sciences, but it creates more interdisciplinary and as far as businesses go, it creates an interdisciplinary expertise. And as promised, okay, word about AI. I don't know much about it. I've heard a lot about it. I use it a little bit. Again, every conference I go to, um, it seems to be on the agenda. I know that a lot of analysts are using it. Like I said, I used it last night to put together a SWOT analysis on the PSM. And it's really I've seen it doing some amazing things that used to take us 2 or 3 days now can be done at 1 or 2 clicks. Now you have to go back in and look at it, but it's pretty amazing. And one analyst, I misspelled analyst there. I put a made up, but caution though is it's having AI is like having an overconfident intern on your team. I mean, they use that word. They have a lot of confidence in the way they use. It's very business friendly. The language they use, and it gives you a sense of confidence. But sometimes you can pick it apart. Okay, I'm getting ready to close, but here's what when I this is verbatim what I got when I prompted for an AI generated response to a prospective student. What are the strengths of this degree, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? And it's pretty much very much what I said. I mean, I did it the hard way. Industry aligned is business acumen, faster employability, yeah, with higher salary. Networking, again, a chance to network with advisory groups, and Lord, you can probably do an internship. I didn't quite catch the flexibility. Part-time, I'm not sure about what that is. I guess you can work in different environments. Weaknesses, research. I don't know about the lack of research focus. I think, like I said, SEMA, they had some. It wasn't a PhD, but it was there. Cost, of course, you have to pay a varied quality. That's something that I guess you guys would know more about. Is there variability in quality from program to program? Opportunities, high demand areas, interdisciplinary skills. I mean, it's spot on what I was saying. Career pivot, excellent for bachelor's in science. Yeah, if you want to move into other areas, it gives you a chance to pivot to those. And then the threats is all about, employer awareness is one, and also it's probably not the best of times to be looking for science-based jobs right now, particularly in academics or NIH-based stuff. But they are sensitive to things like that. So I think that's all I have, Victor. So I'm ready if willing, and I'd like to hear questions or even answers.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mark. That was very thought-provoking, and I think the perfect way to kick off this series for this year. I know you touched on a lot of things that have been on my mind, and I'm sure on the minds of some of our attendees. So at this point, we'll open it up for questions. But maybe I'm going to take my prerogative, maybe as the host, to ask the first question, while maybe some of you think about questions that you might have. What really struck me was this preference. You mentioned preference for generalists, or the world needs more generalists. That's something that I've also observed. But on the other hand, I'm trying to something that we struggle with a little bit is at least with more recent students in our program is trying to balance that with depth. So, for example, we see sometimes students that want to work in a lab to get to say that they did CRISPR or qPCR, or adding bullets to their resume so they can say that they have uh, some limited experience with these techniques, but they don't really have the depth to, an employer looking at that would probably expect them to be able to do that, be able to troubleshoot, have some deeper skills. So as an employer, maybe, I don't know if you have any thoughts or perspectives, what you would look for or how you would advise students to, you know, achieve that balance between breadth and depth.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, there are almost technician skills, that you can acquire and make yourself. But I don't think that that would be the type of job that somebody with a PSM would be looking for. I mean, I think that you're right, and yeah, you can get. Um, you want some depth, and I think that's why I like the capstone work is because it brought in the disciplines that you need to get the job done. And I mean, this, going to use Max as an example. He had to think competitively. He had to think about what are the
Mhm.
other competing technologies, which was the attractiveness that he must have known I was coming or something. So I mean, it's just the fact that you're thinking broader as a generalist, true, but you're also thinking um, about the interest at whether it's a product. In this case, it was a diagnostic for human papillomavirus. You're still concerned about the revenue generating entity of interest. But you have to bring in more, and you have to bring in any and all. If he had to then look at some of the maybe up and coming competitors that were directly competing on the same technological platform, he might look at their business, their latest earnings call, and break that out. Where are the weaknesses? What are the
Mm.
strengths? Who's investing? How's the stock gone? That sort of thing. So it should, the curiosity that you get from science should take you into those different avenues with some depth. Um, and then you can on your resume say that, I've looked at, tracked earning calls of competitors, or um, uh, followed trends in vaccine technology, or something that not necessarily going back to a particular, like you say, a particular technique in the lab. And
Yeah,
unless you want those jobs, yeah.
that's a great suggestion to connect it more broadly. Uh, okay, at this point, I guess I'll open up the floor for questions. So feel free to unmute or enter a question in the chat.
I see a few names that I recognize. I think
Mm.
um, Gianfranco, I think we've met, right? And I know Dagmar. That's a name that I definitely have heard, and I know that we've been in email communication, but I don't know why. But I know probably when we put that article in the newsletter years ago. If I don't have any questions, I got one for you. I mean, how do you is uh, does each program within, your venues, are they very, very similar? Or when you pull in the business acumens, or do you pull them in? And how difficult is that to make bridges to other parts of the organization to pull it off? Do they even understand it as you lead them into this degree, this program?
I mean, I think there's differences. Others can speak to there are differences among programs, depending on how the silos are structured. In our program, we have a requirement for students to take 4 business courses from the business school. A challenge that we've had lately is that, more graduate students in general want to take business courses. So the number of seats in business courses for non-majors at the graduate level sometimes is limited. Another thing that's just recently happened in our institution financially is that the business school offered several tracks, like an entrepreneurship track or a business track where students would get a certificate, which is a recognition of completion of a basket of specialty courses in an area. So now the business school is charging a lot more money for those certificates and basically putting them out of the reach of many students, making it impractical for them to do that. Um, so that's how it works in our institution. But there are other courses that students can take in engineering or College of Agriculture. They have more entrepreneurship or business related courses that students can take. So those are growing. But that is a challenge to work with the work across silos to try to um, establish a relationship that they know who our students are and that they'll be receptive to having them engaged. But that's just one perspective. I'm sure there's many others here if anyone would like to join in.
I mean, there's many different programs and, the way how they look. There's online programs too, and there is on-the-ground programs only. So each school has kind of adapted the PSM framework to what they can offer and what is the best fit for them.
Yeah.
I'll just add one more thing as piggybacking on Dagmar's comments there is that what unifies all of our PSMs together are these kind of 5 key elements that creates the framework or the philosophy of what a PSM is. And then we as an organization, NPSMA, come together to help share on those 5 key elements to ensure new innovation or new adaption or new evolving of any of those key elements. And one of the big key elements of all of our frameworks is this idea, this really workforce aligned orientation of professional skills, business skills, transferable skills. And so we all interpret that differently, but hopefully this organization, this community helps to kind of soundboard best practices and how we implement them. And they're all very different. They all have an experiential learning component, which could be a capstone and could be very different between programs, but that's kind of like the unifying force. So it still holds true. Probably what you read in 2009 is still the same framework that we use. We're just trying to adapt and evolve with time and with changing landscapes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I agree.
I want to say something. This semester I am developing actually a new course with me and a professor from NYU Shanghai that has been appointed also Temple. And we are sharing the course. He will teach the finance part, and I teach more the biology section of the developing of drugs, some non-drugs, some that were a totally failure, or like Vioxx and things like that. And is a test. We are trying to, we have also the business school, the Fox that has their own course for us for the bioinnovation at Temple. But I decided to put also this additional course together because it's within the same class that the students can see the two things.
I have a question for you, Mark. One of your identified weaknesses was that just industry and future employers don't really know or understand what a PSM is and the value that it brings. Once we're able to explain it, once we're able to kind of say this is what it is, your reaction is absolutely probably like 90% of the reactions I get. Most people are like, oh, I wish I had that when I was going through school. Truly, I get this over and over again. But it takes me to actually explain the program before I can get them bought in. And I would like it to pitch it out to you, Mark, as someone who's been on the industry side or people in this room. How do we overcome that messaging? I feel like we've tried to refine our kind of like our tagline at an individual program level. We've worked to do that. Relationship building is one approach that is, takes a lot of time and effort. But then at a national level too, how do we build that momentum to really get people in? And maybe it is just a relationship and then building the ecosystem. But any thoughts on that? I'd pitch it out to anyone.
Yeah, Megan, I mean, we had a long battle with ExxonMobil on this. From day one, 2002, they were like, we only want thesis master students. We are not interested in these professional science master students. And so they have these recruiters in place that have this set of opinion that doesn't change. Even so, we have faculty try to talk to them. We talk to them. And finally, after 20 years, they, their new recruiters, they go, wow, we wish we would have known about this. This is such a great fit for us, and we really want to hire from your program, and this is going to be great. But it was like, what took them so long, right? It was crazy.
You know, I used to worry about that, if you could hear me. I used to worry about that and wanting the PSM to be like an MBA, everybody know. But I finally got into the point where the students speak for themselves. When they interview, they sell it, Evan. So that's where I got to.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to train our students to be representing the program well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like what you might want to think about is getting somebody that knows about branding and seeing if you can brand a little bit better what the PSM is, and the students, like you were saying, they do speak for themselves,
Yeah.
but that's not at scale. And I was wondering if there was a way, that you could brand the degree better. Because I agree, Megan. I mean, everybody reacts the way I do. It was meant that you explained to them, yeah, we don't want an egghead. You know, we want somebody that's got a little bit of, we want somebody with a business. And I'm not putting down science because I still love science. I'm still a scientist at heart. But I do think that some sort of branding, I mean, or branding advice would be good, for this group. Um, and I'm not the one for that, but yeah, somebody could take a look at it. Maybe I don't know what you would do, but it probably needs a little bit of a boost.
Maybe we can ask AI.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that is. I'm involved with a scholarship fund right now, setting up with my old high school, and I asked AI to set out, a business plan for raising money, and oh my goodness, it was perfect. So I would imagine you can get a brand strategy plan for PSM
Um,
pretty easily.
Cynthia, your hand is raised.
Yes, I was just gonna add, and I mean this is very much this a multi-pronged approach, and everybody has hit things that I think are really, really important. We also used to place a lot of articles in publications. People were constantly writing about the professional science masters, and they were speaking at conferences and using the phrase professional science masters, or now professional STEM masters. And there was real momentum. But it was definitely multi-pronged approach, and I absolutely agree with trying to get the graduates to be ambassadors for this degree has been really, really important. And I think too, with administrations changing, and I know this happened, I'm at Northeastern, every time, we got a new dean, we were trying to go immediately meet with that person before they even got to our program. We'd go in and talk to them and educate them about what this was, and they would get extremely excited and get on board. It is a constant effort, however, because it's department chair, it's dean. You have to go and talk to those people if they've never heard of this before. Because things can change very rapidly, as I think we all know. All of a sudden, you have a champion, and your champion leaves, and somebody comes in, and they don't know what this is, and you don't want them to start poking around before you've gone to see them, and you sit down and you brag about how wonderful the degree is and the program is, and then you get them on board. But it is a constant effort to do that.
So just one other question. Again, in the industry, in pharma industry, we have something called a patient journey. How does the patient get to your drug? And if I think about a student journey, and what the real options are, how a student gets to the PSM program or gets to that degree. I mean, you've got various competition. You've got MBAs, I imagine. You got nothing. Basically, they graduate and don't do any graduate work. You've got nothing. You got MBAs. You got PhDs. They go on and get a 4-year, go into a PhD program. Um, and nothing meaning they go into the workforce as is. But I mean, of those, which is the most threatening? Um, if you were seeing a student and you say they're perfect for it right now, and then you see them go off, why would they go off into one of the other directions? And understanding that, I think, is would be important as you recruit prospective students.
I'll put in my 2 cents here. I actually don't think we compete with PhDs or MBAs. I think we actually compete with other master's programs, Masters of Science, primarily because um, the confusion of what a PSM is. Is it on par with another MS? And then two would be they're not so much anymore. So maybe there's an opportunity right now, but a traditional MS sometimes and hopefully does come with more funding opportunities. So that would be kind of like our competition, I think, internally. MBAs are 3 times, or at least our program, are 3 times as much as our master's. So ours is much more affordable. Gives you, we call it the STEM BA, right? You get just enough of both worlds. And then the PhD is a very different targeted track as well. So I mean, that's knowing my audience. I think I can speak for a pretty good amount of people here that may be similar, and there are obviously outliers too. So really, we're competing with our own like disciplines and ourselves, which, sometimes hard to say.
Yeah. Which is probably a small, I don't know where that, if you looked at the market size of each one of those, probably the nothing market is the biggest. More students don't do anything, they
Mhm.
go right to work. And then I don't know what percentage would go to masters within the discipline, within the sciences, or to PhD programs, or MBA school. I mean, I know a lot of, well, I don't know. I know a lot of engineers that went into MBA school, but that makes more sense, I think, than pure science people, because engineers are sort of, there's an application there already. Um, and
I mean,
they're,
we do have some of our bioscience related students get ready to go to med school. So
Mhm.
they choose our programs to get an extra edge into their application for med school, and that has worked for them. So that's something we can advertise, right? As a positive. Yeah, and also, I mean, we do advertise, and that they're better prepared, that they can hit the ground running on the first day because they have the science technical background, they have some business understanding, they have a practical work experience. So they are more experienced, more educated and trained than a regular undergrad student. And there are people that don't want to do research. I mean, that's the target group that we all have, right? People that like the science, would like to maybe do a little bit more instead of just, wrap it up at their undergrad degree and then do something totally that has nothing to do with the science that they maybe like to do. I mean, we have seen a lot of data where students they study chemistry or physics, but then they end up in working for a bank or working for some other organization that where they're not using their science at all. And when these degrees were first created, the idea was by the Sloan Foundation to keep undergrad science students in the sciences and not let them go off and do other type of jobs. And that was one of the goals.
I have a quick question, Mark, and this is completely changing the topic, but Victor had mentioned certificates. So I feel like this is a huge trend now, right? Building these certificates, micro credentials, things like that to stack on top of your degrees and that, kind of stamp your CV or resume. I'm curious from an industry perspective, how much value does industry see in these certificates? I mean, they're built on within that particular university, or I mean, like we're talking about building an AI certificate. And so I'm just curious, I've had that question. Well, is it worth it? Does industry even care about this? Curious your thoughts.
Hmm. Well, I mean, my discipline that I chose I really didn't. I sort of chose me. Is see, competitive intelligence lacks brand too, and there was always a push to get certificates, and it had, for one reason or another, it never gained any traction, never gained any value. I don't think there is an academy out there um, that I think probably has done the best job at certifying their CI. They go through a course, it's very rigorous, and it probably carries some weight. But it's sort of one person in one academy, and it got a big name in the discipline. I don't know if there would be an equivalent like that. It almost have to, yeah, it was too fragmented, so you didn't know what certificate carried more weight. But I think it took 30 years for ours to sort of develop into one. Yeah, there is one probably better than the others, the Harvard of CI or whatever. Um, I shouldn't say that in front of everybody here. I mean, how many people are from Harvard? No, um, so I don't know. I would, my gut would say wouldn't mean much unless, the person that's doing the interviewing knew about it or had gone through it or understood it. Um, yeah. So, but I wouldn't poo-poo it. Maybe if you keep at it for a number of years, a decade or so, it could be meaningful.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question for Mark, but actually for everyone, is about current enrollment, the type of student that we have. Have you seen a difference or a change between professional that want to eventually take your PSM to get a better job while they're still working versus students that are really coming out from undergrad degree? Did you see a transition in these years after COVID, before COVID? Mark, for you directly, what do you think will be better to employ a young kid that just finishes undergrad and master degree, or having an employer that is in your company, is a good technician, but is smart and want to go to get some better position and complete a PSM? What you will prefer in that case?
I mean, I think it always comes down to the individual. In that interview or, I was always lucky enough to go to these capstone presentations and, that was just that was the beginning of an interview process for me. And so I cheated. I didn't have to look at the resume on paper. I saw the person and then looked at the resume. I did the opposite. So I don't know if I have enough data to talk about that.
I think you hit right on the nail on the head there, where it's more about creating connections and professional networks, more so today, almost more so than just building out a resume. Sorry, last comment there. Victor, please wrap us up. I want to steal it away.
Yeah.
Mark, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. And the discussion's been great too.
I enjoyed
Hey, Victor, and everybody who
Yeah.
knows me, I'm going to be retiring in March. So this might be, one of the last session, but I still want to stay kind of involved a little bit. Also will stay involved a little bit advice. So hopefully I will still get the invites to come on some of these NPSMA Ask and maybe other sessions. So hopefully I will see you guys around in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, we definitely want to keep seeing you join and be engaged for sure. But congratulations as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we are at time. I want to thank Mark again. This was not just a wonderful presentation, but also the discussion that was very thought-provoking and I think hit on a lot of things that many of us are thinking about right now. So thank you for taking the time and surviving the bat in your barn as well during this session.
Forgot about that.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you for joining, everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Thank you, Victor.
Bye, Victor.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.